time. So they've got dates for next year, full schedule released to the public, likely October or the start of November. Ignite, same scenario or timing on schedule, likely to come out the end of October or earlier in November. You may have seen they kind of rebranded. There was the one team that split off from the league, Omaha Supernovas. That was announced during the season. They were going to start their own league, Major League Volleyball, MLB. The two leagues have since come together going into this next season, branded under MLB, Major League Volleyball. I think it's a good thing long term, like the lesser amount of leagues, I think provides more stability for action out over three different leagues.
Like Cal IB.
So no change in financial terms for us, still the same number of games, maybe long-term potential to add number of home games. So it shouldn't be a change, just branding really on the league side. Fuel, they'll start in October. Single game tickets go on sale late September or early October. Their promotional calendar was released last week. Larger events since we last talked, we had Rick Springfield here in June. We had the two Leanne Morgan shows the end of July. That one we knew going into it, parking was going to be a bit of a struggle there. City was great to work with. Police was great to work with throughout that. When we had committed to it, like when we announced that show, it was July of last year. It ended up rescheduling because she had a TV conflict. So we added the second show. I think it was late November of last year. So when we committed to adding the second show, we hadn't seen an egress yet. What we learned after seeing a few of those was the shows were too compact, too close. So would we do a double show again? Yeah, absolutely. We just need more timing between to completely flush the first show out. We had done a double. It was did a couple for certain, but significantly smaller capacity compared to sold out comedy show. Plus side, big financial win for the venue on that. Since it was the first double sold out shows at the single day ticket sales record, single day gross ticket sales revenue. The promoter who promotes, or is the largest comedy promoter in the country, took out a full page ad in a kind of industry publication highlighting the records in Fishers and brand new arena. So good exposure there. They were happy. Critical Role, that one was first week of August. That was like the kind of card playing Dungeons and Dragons type deal. Same timing as Gen Con downtown. And that one will be the largest event net income we've seen from a single show. That surprised me. Yeah. And it was like, learned a lot during the show, how to sell food and beverage for that, what to expect. But it was some of the highest parking revenue we've had. I think it was the second highest food and beverage per cap we've had. The average ticket was $122 and it sold out instantly. So wow. Major financial win there. I think they did 5 or 6 shows this year. They don't go on the road a lot. They live stream on YouTube and another platform. I think it's every week. So we were one of 5 or 6 to get it, and I think 2 or 3 of them were overseas. So we got one of the 2 or 3 U.S. states on that one. Merchandise was another one, huge on that. I think it was the second highest per cap we've done in merch behind Megan Maroney. And I think they sold, it was a sweatshirt, 2 t-shirts, dice, and a tote bag. So it was like 4 or 5 items. We produced that high in the span. Recent announcements, Butler Volleyball, I think that one went out last week. They're going to host, there's 2 games here on a Friday, 2 on a Saturday, September 19th and 20th. So I think 4 teams playing here over the 2 days. Third day was announced. That's a show taking place in 2026. AEW announced today. They're back in December. That'll be another nationally televised one there. And then over the course of the next, I think it's 30 days, we should have 3 more announcements. So they're starting to pick up the rest of the length in the fall. Various kind of housekeeping items. We hosted a tabletop the end of July. So that's kind of working on emergency preparedness for all of our staff. We invited the 3 sports teams, all had a presence there. third-party operators like Laz and the security company. So we had all of them there. And then participants from FBI, police, fire, homeland security. So a good practice to go through there with the local agencies. We've got a career fair this Thursday, kind of cycling back to refill some of the part-time positions as we head into the busy season. We've got some of the sports teams there filling some of their spots as well as third parties. We'll host ASM's ice school when we put the ice in here. So it's we'll host it here. Building operations staff from other venues will come into town, and then we'll bring in the ice suppliers of various equipment and ice plant people to work on it. So Jet Ice, Zamboni, Simcoe. So our company typically does it once a year. Normally it's like if it was in another part of the country, we may send one employee just from a cost perspective. You're not going to send your whole team and you may have an event. So for us, it gives us a good opportunity to get all of our full-time and part-time that we would not send out on the road for training. So all of our staff will go through that. We've got new menu items rolling out late September, October. So typical annual process for us there, we'll basically peel off the bottom 10% items that didn't sell enough volume, don't make sense to keep on the menu. So those will come off. We'll reintroduce some new items for each season and continue to play with the menu and massage it a little bit. Expense wise, utility is the one that continues to be the biggest hurdle there. Normally in this part of the year, slower on events, like we should be turning off the full bowl system for a week at a time. They're still working on the HVAC system, balancing it and playing around in there, trying to get it to the right temps and controls. So we haven't got full control to be able to turn it off and be in there working. So trying to work through that, give them access during the week, and shut off over the weekend if we don't have anything. All right, and then Tony's got some budget numbers. If
we're going to do this old fashioned way today. Problems getting connected to the internet, so we got the paper version. This is our forecast for 2026.
okay, sir.
Share that. So starting, just things are pretty straightforward. 2025, that is our current run rate, where we're heading for 2025. We got a couple leads, contingent shows out there that are part of that number. So that's just background on that 2025 forecast. So as starting at the top, the direct event income. So direct event income, this is essentially any rent that we get from tenants, shows, offset by any specific expenses. So you think stagehands, any equipment we're renting, anything that is specific to putting on the actual event outside of ancillary revenue streams. So when you look at the difference between 2026 to 2025, primary difference on what we're expecting on that is a change in event mix. So with the venue opening in November of 24, that cramped the Fuels 24-25 schedule into the first half of 2025. So actually ended up having 13 more Fuel games this year, but we're not having, because of the way that the agreement with the Fuel is structured, it's not a per game rent charge. So we're actually carrying 13 more tenant games in 2025, whereas next year we're going to be replacing some of those tenant events with either touring shows or private events, which have a rent or a component that we build back with its stagehands, those kinds of things where there's that additional stream. So that's the difference between 2026 and 2025 there. Moving down to the ancillary streams. So overall, a slight, if you're looking at the total, a slight decrease from this year. There's a couple things that go into that. One, just again, event mix. So
That's pretty low.
in the fuel games, it's a high for those fuel games. So we're doing about $20 a head in 2025. So some of those touring shows, they aren't confirmed yet, depending on what those shows end up being, whether if it's a rock concert, that may be a higher per cap, whereas something like a comedy show or like that is a little bit lower. So that is a piece of that reduction in the F&B net. The other piece is just in the forecast, a lower attendance based off of 2025. So if you look at touring shows for 2025 so far, outside of Rick Springfield, they've pretty much all been sold out. So for forecast purposes, we're not going to forecast 100% attendance for like a larger conference. A larger concert, we're about 73%. So there's growth within that number if we continue to have the large attendance that we've had so far in 2025, depending on the show. We're also forecasting an increase in F&B profitability as well. We've been running at 40% through 2025, and we're anticipating that to go up to 45 in 2026. Merchandise, while a smaller revenue stream for us, we've had a couple out year shows in 2025 that have just blown that number out of the water. Whether we get a show like that in 2026, it's likely. But again, that's the reason for the decrease there. So we've had 2 shows in 2025 that have spent
The two, Megan Maroney and Critical Role, both of those two are higher than any of them I've ever seen than you in like 12 years. Just
Is it kind of on a consignment basis? They bring in their merchandise and you just
take
sell
out percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's sell the merchandise, settle up after the show.
Got it.
Take percentage
Yeah.
for selling.
And then same with the parking is the biggest function there is with lower forecast attendance. Again, we're not forecasting 100% attendance of the shows, so that could be in line depending on where attendance actually ends up. Questions so far?
I think we talked about this, but trying to take from this to get to the city realized revenues. I don't know if you guys have done anything related to that.
So, and that may be a further discussion as far as realized. I mean, what's on this at the end of the day, everything is going back to the city. Now, if you look specifically on the forecast, as far as it's all city funds, but as far as what the event center is sending on a monthly basis back to the city, it's going to be specifically that at the very near the bottom, that $3 facility fee. So contractually, there is a $3 facility fee on every ticket that's sold, and that is the component that goes directly. There's an actual cash payment every month from the event center back to the city.
Okay. What did we need to project in revenue?
Right, so the debt service payment annually is just under 11 million, it's like 10.9, right? So
Okay.
we were projecting about $1 million coming out of operations of the event center to help pay for that. If you guys recall, we had payment lieu taxes from our sewer utility, we had our CCD fund, we had food and beverage,
Yes, dear.
professional sports destination area as well. So we had several different revenue streams to really make sure that if any one of them were underperforming or having a tough time, we'd be more than covered. So I think the good news is this is great. We've learned a lot as far as, some additional expenses on utilities and things of that nature, some adjustments, which is exactly what these guys should be doing. I think the good news is on those other revenue streams, for example, our food and beverage for the city has really outperformed. We're trending towards 3.8 million in revenue this year. for a rolling 12 months, and we were projecting like 3.4 for that. So, we got several more restaurants, breaking ground or starting here in the near future. So that number should only continue to increase even more. So that's great news for us.
You tracking that F&B revenue too? What percent is outside?
Is that possible?
That does not come in. That doesn't exist because all it does is give you who is paid what.
Yeah.
So it can't, so.
From each individual
Like,
location, but we
yeah.
do, track to make sure
Kind of
they
random tracking, maybe you could.
has, yeah,
Yeah.
that's possible.
We want revenue from as many people
Yeah,
outside.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah.
There is one I know that other cities use that track your cell phone pings and things like that. 'Cause I
Yeah.
know and that might be a little too big brother, but yeah, it just gives you.
You can do that, honestly.
Do you guys do that with the
Service.
license plate?
You track, yeah, but
You guys do, right? You can tell how many people come to a show outside of our,
Yeah, I don't know data wise if we
place
can
your
pull the plates.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if there's a violation. The easiest way for us to track is tickets sold. So we can look at maps and see, and it really changes by type of show. Like if it's a country show or like if we're gonna do a rodeo, we're gonna expect that it's gonna, like our sales location is gonna be further north. A lot of the shows we do though are not predominantly Hamilton County, it's Marion County. So there's a lot of influx of individuals coming in and eating and drinking at our place, but also in the district.
I have another question though, with Noblesville now opening. What have you heard about their event schedule? And has that had any impact on your ability to attract?
Haven't seen any negative impact to this point. I think that their focus, obviously G League team, but a lot of private events and sporting events. Like I think predominantly youth sports
Yeah.
and multiple court facilities. I don't see them doing a ton of touring shows. I don't think that's their focus.
3,500, that was seat
I
wise.
think so.
Yeah, it's about that 3 to 4. So we've got a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was you probably said it, it just went past my head. What was the difference between the ticketed events? Because it looks like that's reduced, but total events increased by 2 for next year.
Yeah, so the ticket event, if you look at 2025, we carried 13 additional pool games.
Oh, so
That's the big chunk of it. So those are going to be replaced with a mix of touring shows and private events. So the bigger chunk being private events, how a private event is a ticketed event, but it still is revenue generating.
do we like the private events? Do we do well on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like it's one of those where like we do a bunch of private events to the general public. It looks like you're not busy because they're not on the marquee, they're not tickets sold, but the revenue is good. We've had a couple that are 6-figure private events and net income. So a couple of them up there with concerts, and then the smaller ones where it's just renting out, like the club, the premium club or the North Club. Those are smaller ones, but we're not booking those 9 months out and blocking the date on the calendar. If you're going to rent a piece of the facility, it's got to be a shorter window or ability to move. Good on that section?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving down, so the total other event related income and / expense. So that piece includes our ticketing fees that we collect, any promoter rebates, and then also suite and reimbursements for tenant events. So primary change there from 2025 to 2026 is it's really a mix on the way we're forecasting concerts, whether I know we've talked about it before briefly in here, that for a touring show or a concert, we can have what's either called a rental rebate or a co-promotion. And depending on how the event type is kind of how we report that. If it's a co-pro, we're going to pull some of those expenses from where it's a rental rebate that goes directly to that line. So it's really just kind of a reporting classification because we can't forecast one way or another what that agreement is going to be. So how it's structured. Underneath that, the other operating income line, that includes any contraction. So all the suites we're renting, that includes suites, it includes sponsorships, and then it also includes interest income. So generally, year over year, that line should be pretty flat unless our suites are coming up for renewal and you got to change it in what's being charged for that. Most of the suites are on either 3 or 5 years. So that will be coming up for another year or two. And then decreases just less interest income. We've been carrying it from when shows went on sale in July of 2024. We've had a large balance in the ticketing account from 2024 through the beginning of 2025. We're not forecasting it to get back up to where it has been. So it's just slightly still we're carrying. So moving on, you can see that brings us to our adjusted gross income of 6.4 million for 2026. Underneath that is our indirect expenses or operating expenses. So you can see we do have a bump from 2025 to 2026. If you look over on the right, primary drivers of those increases is one, we're looking at adding a second event manager just due to our event load at the facility. So we have enough coverage to, right now we have one person who's running all of the events regardless of what type they are. So we're looking to break that up a little bit. So a little bit more things on each type of event. It does also include our annual increase for our full-time employee pool. Another component of that is the Mastian licensing. So if you've been to an event, probably seen the Mastian checkouts where you just set your food items down in one of it, and then it automatically brings them up. Those are on an annual licensing, so there's not you didn't purchase the units outright. For the first year, though, we did use FF&E funding to cover the annual cost of those. That annual license is $136,000 a year. So that's coming into the budget for 2026. And then we're also forecasting a higher level of repairs and maintenance. First year, we're expecting very much. Next year, we're expecting to have some level of repairs and maintenance that we're bumping that up for. So that takes us down to our net operating income, and then the line below that is the $3 facility fee on all tickets. Again, forecasting a little bit lower than what we're actually running for 2025 based on event mix, and then lower attendance being forecasted for those touring shows to bring us to our 60,000.
Any questions from the general public about this event center, how it's operating? Yeah, I didn't think so.
The only, I think generally from the public, we get inside the facility is awesome, great events, really like the floor. And then external is market traffic that we're still working on. So that's the only topics we're
We're
talking
down to that, that's not bad.
So it's like, I can bring it next time. We send out a survey after all the ticketed events, and it grades it in all these buckets of like ingress, security, wayfinding, food and beverage, security. So we see the same thing, like above average compared to other areas of venues in most everything, and then a dip in parking. But happy to share it.
You're evaluated for your bonus, you blame that on the city.
We'll call quorum.
Do it.
Okay. All right. Sorry for being late.
Oh, it's okay, Joe.
Thanks for being here.
We would have had to wait on you no matter how long it took.
Appreciate your option.
All right, so I'll call to order at 4:29 PM. Kelly, do we have confirmation of quorum? You, we have the consent of previous minutes dated 6/29/25. Do we have any questions? Yeah, I don't have, we have to vote. Do we? We have to vote that question.
No, it's not, it's consent.
Perfect. All right, new business.
Okay, yeah, I'll tee this one up here. So this resolution, is for the town hall building court to accept, surplus funds from the city council. So it's specifically our 2024 GO bond identified surplus funds, the amount of $7,597,625. We will be taking this, tonight to city council, to request a transfer it, to the town hall building court. So in something that they do that, you have to take receipt of just shy of $7.6 million for the intent of purchasing real estate around the Fishers Event Center. If you recall, we have 60.18 acres, I believe, in total, the entire property. And we have some remaining parking area. We have yet to acquire from the master developer. So we have 30.16 acres left. And so we've used these surplus funds from the 24 GO bond, transfer the town building court to buy down that property. We have, I think it was 7 years in total to purchase all the land around there. But since we identified funds now, we are carrying interest on that. So buying it down sooner rather than later, it's really a financially sound decision to make.
What's that per acre? 240?
Sorry, again.
It says 30 acres at seven, what?
7.6.
How much is it per acre?
It varies. So the retail portions in the higher development area, those are about 618,000. I think the parking lot is 240 an acre,
206.
206 an acre. So we're tracking in terms of the area that we're purchasing from them and like the value of that. So that's also that's been helpful when we've been talking to groups of saying this is what the land cost would be for you to take ownership of that.
I mean, but it's 30 acres, 7.5 million in total.
It's left.
So we have 30.16 acres left of the parking area.
Mhm.
We've identified 7.5 million available to use today.
Right.
So
Oh, I see. This is
Right,
just
yeah.
part of the purchase.
Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
How much will be left to purchase?
Oh, do some math here.
Well,
Yeah.
so part of this is, so, Thompson Thrift has land in there that is their, what's been earmarked for them. They are planning to use that for their multifamily project. There's a couple of other spots that as the site plan has changed, so I think an additional 25 acres maybe is what we will actually purchase.
Yes, so. Yeah, there's 4 lots available left, to Megan's point, which would be purchased by Thompson Thrift and others. That's, what's that, maybe 13 acres or so left.
So the city's gonna just use this for economic development purposes, that what land inventory will be.
I mean, the parking lot, we need those parking spaces, so those will just be held. But instead of us potentially having to buy land or to subsidize this land costs or carry more interest, that like the interest that we're carrying on that property makes it's $800,000 an acre. I mean, just throwing numbers out there. It makes more sense for us to do it this way, so then we're not carrying that additional interest with Thompson Thrift under our land acquisition agreement. But if we do, if any of that land that ever were to change, we would still have to go through our normal like RFP process. So, and the statutory requirements of us giving Town Hall Building Corporation land to a group.
Call for motion.
I'll make the motion. Instead of that cash.
All approved?
Group.
Aye. Nay. Motion passes. Any other business?
I've got else.
Warrants and meetings that we've got coming up for them. Or for bond items, I mean.
Well, September,
Um,
not even.
shouldn't be, maybe some signatures, but probably not.
Sorry, we were so difficult in getting this going.
Got it.
We got it.
Somewhat.
Thanks, Joe.
Right.
Thank you.